What is force-free dog training? Is it just bribery with treats? Is it purely positive, as many claim? Is force-free dog training just for easy skills or for puppy training? Do some breeds need a heavier hand? Does force-free work for difficult behaviors like reactivity or aggression? Don't you need to correct a dog to get them to stop doing the things that you dislike? And perhaps most importantly, does force-free dog training actually work? I fully recognize that my answers to some of these questions are going to anger some people. However, I think it needs to be said. First, what is force-free dog training? Force-free dog training is an approach to training dogs that doesn't involve the use of force, fear, intimidation, or pain. Aversive tools or methods such as shock, choke, or prong collars, hitting or spanking, or leash corrections are never used. In very simple terms, you have two options when it comes to training a dog. You can reinforce what you would like them to repeat, or you can punish what you would like them to stop. If you're trying to teach your dog something, you're going to need to either reward or punish them in order for there to be an effect. Neutral does not change behavior. To fully explain what force-free dog training is and how it differs from balance training, we first need to talk about how dogs learn. The main tactic used to train a dog is called operant conditioning. This sounds intimidating, but it just means learning by consequence. If a dog's behavior has an enjoyable consequence, they will want to repeat it. An example of this would be getting a treat when you've given the sit cue and your dog completes the action.
I put my butt on the ground and I got tasty. I love tasties. I will put my butt on the ground more often.
Examples of enjoyable consequences are things like treats, praise, pets, and affection. Anything that your dog enjoys is considered a good consequence. If a dog's behavior has an unpleasant consequence, that behavior will happen less frequently. An example of this would be jerking on your dog's collar when they pull on the leash.
When I pulled, my neck hurt. I don't like my neck hurting. I won't pull next time.
Examples of unpleasant consequences are things like leash corrections, e-collar shocks, or spraying them with a water bottle. Anything that your dog dislikes is an unpleasant consequence. There are 4 quadrants of operant conditioning. These quadrants can get a little bit confusing due to our personal association with particular words used. I'm going to explain it so that it makes sense and that you can fully understand the difference between force-free and balance training. The first important thing to know is that in operant conditioning, positive and negative do not mean good and bad. Try to think of them more like math terms, addition or subtraction. Positive is the addition of something. This could be giving your dog a treat or adding a shock collar. Depending on what you add, the dog will either view it as an enjoyable or unenjoyable consequence. Negative is the removal of something. This could be taking away your attention or removing the pressure from a prong collar. Again, your dog's perception of whether this is good or bad depends on what you're removing. The other important thing to note is that punishment is not necessarily bad. In operant conditioning, punishment only refers to causing the dog's behavior to happen less frequently, while reinforcement refers to causing that behavior to happen more frequently. This can be a little confusing to wrap your head around, but in a chart, the 4 quadrants look like this. Let's go through an example. Let's say that your goal is to teach your dog to walk nicely on leash. How could you achieve that using these quadrants? In this case, the reinforced behavior, or what you want increased, is polite leash walking, and the punished behavior, or what you want decreased, is pulling on the leash. How could you achieve this goal using each of the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning? Positive reinforcement is adding something that the dog views as desirable. When your dog walks nicely beside you, you could give them a treat, which reinforces the behavior and encourages them to do that again. Negative punishment is removing something desirable. If your dog is pulling on the leash to try to get to a smell, you could stand still to prevent them from accessing it. By limiting access to the thing that they wanted, it discourages them from pulling on the leash next time. Force-free dog trainers like myself only use positive reinforcement or negative punishment to train dogs. Essentially, we only add or limit access to things that dogs want. We never add something undesirable to train a dog. How does this differ from balance training? Balance trainers also use positive punishment and negative reinforcement, which is the addition or removal of things that a dog would dislike. This could include things like spanking, leash corrections, spray bottles, choke or prong collars, or shock collars. How could a balance trainer use these 2 quadrants to teach a dog to walk nicely on leash? Positive punishment is the addition of something that the dog will find unpleasant, scary, or painful. You're frustrated with your dog pulling on leash, so you put a prong collar on them for the walk. When they pull, you give a leash correction and the discomfort discourages them from pulling next time. Negative reinforcement is removing things that your dog finds undesirable that you originally added. For example, when your dog stops pulling on the leash, you relax the pinch of the prong collar. This quadrant confuses people the most. Think of it as the removal of something unpleasant to reinforce the behavior that you originally wanted in the first place. Force-free dog trainers do not use negative reinforcement because we wouldn't have added something unpleasant in the first place. Therefore, there's nothing to remove. The big difference between force-free and balanced training is that force-free trainers only use 2 of the 4 quadrants. Force-free dog trainers only add or withhold things that the dog wants in order to achieve behavioral change. Contrary to popular opinion, force-free dog training does not mean bribing with treats. Good force-free training uses proper timing with the reinforcer coming after the behavior rather than using treats or another reinforcer as a bribe to get the dog to do the behavior in the first place. Force-free dog training is also not purely positive. We use negative punishment or withholding good things to decrease the behaviors that we dislike. Are force-free trainers limited trainers? A common insult towards force-free dog trainers is to call us limited trainers. Since we only use 2 of the 4 quadrants, many balanced trainers will say that we're self-limiting our options and therefore our ability to train a dog. Balanced trainers will talk about how it's more impressive to use all the quadrants. Is that true though? Just because you have 4 options, does it mean that it's better or that you should use all 4? Let's pretend that I want to make money and I have 4 options. I could get a job, I could start a business, I could steal, or I could blackmail someone. Hypothetically, they all accomplish the same goal. I should have more money at the end. But at what cost? 2 are valid options, while the other 2 just make you an unnecessary jerk. Ethics and morals don't stop because it's just a dog. I've never understood how using all 4 quadrants is viewed as something to brag about. You're choosing to do something unpleasant to a living, breathing, feeling creature when you don't have to, and you're bragging about that? Some people also believe that using all 4 quadrants makes for more impressive dog training. More tools means more impressive, right? Again, I disagree. Let me ask you this. If 2 tradesmen were completing the same project, but one just needed a hammer and nails, while the other one needs a full bag of tools to achieve the same result, who's better at their craft? Needing all 4 quadrants does not mean that your skill set's higher or that you're a better dog trainer. In fact, like the example above, it often means that your skill set's actually lower. If you understand threshold, dog body language, and how behaviors develop, you can absolutely use force-free training to achieve the same result without any detriment to the dog. Force-free dog training aims to set your dog up for success, while punishment-based training sets them up for failure. What do I mean by that? Force-free dog training involves rewarding the dog for what we like, therefore reinforcing that that behavior will happen again. Dogs are put in situations that are fair so that they can be successful, and then the difficulty is progressively increased. This results in engaged, happy canine learners. What about punishment-based training? Punishment-based training corrects what is disliked. Dogs are put in situations where they will fail, and then they're punished for doing so. Corrections might suppress a behavior that you dislike, but they do not teach your dog what they should do instead. Harsh corrections can also lead to stressed, scared, or shut down dogs because they're constantly concerned about doing the wrong thing and being punished again. How nervous would you be to try new things if your mistakes were always punished? Dogs deserve force-free methods that kindly teach them what you actually want from them. Force-free dog training is a lot of things, but it's not permissive. It doesn't mean bribing your dog, it doesn't mean letting your dog do whatever they want, and it definitely doesn't mean a lack of results. I have very high standards and expectations from dogs, but I achieve those using fun, kind methods. Part of my goal with this YouTube channel is to change the narrative and perception about force-free dog training. Many balanced trainers will lead you to believe that corrections are absolutely necessary for a well-behaved dog. I disagree, and I have the client history to prove it. I want to show that force-free is not just for easy breeds, puppies, or simple obedience skills. As a force-free trainer, I actually mostly work with things such as reactivity and aggression. The aim of my channel is to show you how I get results using force-free methods so that you can follow the same steps to train your dog humanely. I can assure you that you don't need to scare or harm a dog in order to get results. In fact, you'll get better results if you don't. Force-free dog training is effective for all dogs regardless of breed, age, or perceived difficulty. I believe in and promote training methods that work for both the person and the dog. Fear, pain, or force do not work for your dog. At best, they only work for the person administering them. Please do not think that you need to choose between kind methods or results. You don't. Choose the humane method, choose force-free. Do you like the idea of training your dog force-free but it didn't work for you in the past? Hit subscribe because next week I'm going to be talking about reasons why force-free training doesn't work.